The House January 6th committee has released its final report, placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of the former President Donald Trump, calling him the one man who caused the January 6th Capitol riots and recommends barring him from holding office again. This is an expansive report. It is huge. It is 845 pages, and it summarizes a year-and-a-half-long investigation by the committee, which conducted over 1,000 interviews. In a newly released transcript for the former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson tells the committee that she felt pressure from Trump allies not to talk and instead risk contempt charges. She testified that before her interview with the committee, she told her mom, "I am completely indebted to these people. They will ruin my life if I do anything they don't want me to do." Cassidy also testified that in her initial depositions before the committee, when she had Trump-aligned lawyer Stefan Passantino beside her, she said this, and I quote, "It wasn't just that I had Stefan sitting next to me. It was almost like I felt like I had Trump looking over my shoulder because I knew in some fashion it would get back to him if I said anything that he would find disloyal. And the prospect of that genuinely scared me. You know, I'd seen this world ruin people's lives or try to ruin people's careers. I'd seen how vicious they can be." Passantino said in a statement that he believed Hutchinson was being truthful and cooperative with the committee in the interviews he represented for her, or her for, I should say. So joining me now to discuss, CNN political analyst and senior political correspondent at the New York Times, Maggie Haberman. Maggie, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Listen, we're going to get to this full report. Good morning to you, by the way, this full report. But I just want to get to what we learned about Cassidy Hutchinson, where she talks about her strange relationship with her father. She went to him to ask him for help, feeling like Trump world was watching her. It is stunning. I just want to read something about what she said because I think it just shows you. She said her dad was a Trump supporter, and they had a strange relationship. She said, let's see, my biological father, but I went to his place. I didn't have a relationship with my biological father, but I went over to his place one night. I drove up to New Jersey, and I went to his house one night and begged him. It's probably one thing I regret in all of this. I wish I didn't stoop to that level because it was a no, but I begged him to help me. I said, I would pay him back, like, name your interest rate, like, I just need help. And I remember saying to him, you have no idea what they're going to do to me.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
She sounds incredibly scared in this transcript, and she lays out a culture of Trump land that we have heard many, many other former aides talk about over years. Michael Cohen, Stephanie Grisham, you can go down the list, Alyssa Farah. And she was clearly worried about what would happen to her, not just in terms of Trump land, but she had no money. She had no lawyer. She had no anything. And Mark Meadows was not responding to her. Mark Meadows, who had been her boss for 2 years. So you can see how she ended up with Stefan Passantino. And, yes, you just played the statement from Stefan Passantino. What she alleges in this under oath transcript is that Stefan Passantino was not just representing her, but that he was trying to shape her testimony. And that is very, very serious and very specific, and is something that, the committee has said the DOJ is looking at it. I suspect we will be hearing more about this in the coming months.
Can you give us a sense of, with these 845 pages, I know you went through them because you had a report out at 2 in.the morning, so you haven't slept. But what stood out to you? Because you've been reporting on Trump world for so long. What stood out to you from this report? Were there new things that we hadn't seen, for example, during the committee?
There actually was a lot of new meat on the bone. The overarching story remains the same, which is that the committee finds him unfit to serve, shows that he was not, and they stressed this over and over again, he was an active participant in this. He wasn't some person who was being beset by bad advice, which is something that a lot of his allies have tried suggesting, but that he was actually the center of the wheel on all of this. So, that's the main takeaway. There's new information about how frustrated the National Guard was waiting to be deployed. It was really, really striking to read. There's new details about specifically at which moments during the 187 minutes Trump knew certain things. So when exactly he realized a riot was in place, it was pretty soon after he got back to the Capitol. At some point in the 2 o'clock hour, late in that hour, there's a note put on his desk saying that Ashley Babbitt has been shot. So it's not as if he was just, again, this passive observer. And then there's new information about his aides over and over again. It's important to remember these are his own advisors painting this picture of him not caring, him ignoring things. Another important detail I thought was him acknowledging to aides that what Sidney Powell was saying about, voting machines and Hugo Chavez hacking them in some big plot sounded crazy. That feeds into the point that several people testified to, which was that he knew some of this was not true. And yet he continued pushing this.
Well, so listen, that obviously shocking, but even more shocking, the fake electors plot that is mentioned in this as well, which could be, I think, if there's any sort of liability, perhaps criminally or legally, it would be for this fake electors plot.
I think that's one element. We know that the committee recommended other charges, one of which is insurrection. There were a couple of others. I think on the fake electors plot, it's not just Donald Trump who has potential exposure. There are a lot of people who have exposure over and over again because it's very clear that they knew they were doing something that was legally questionable. I think they will argue, no, we thought it was real, but you can see in their communications that there are things that they were doing that they knew were problematic, and this plan began really early. That's one of the other things that the report documents. This didn't just spring up, in mid-December. This was going on for weeks. The report cites reporting I did very shortly after the election where Trump was asking advisors, I think it was November 11th or 12th, about how to get states to choose electors who are loyal to him. This started very early.
I do want to ask you about some of the recommendation. It also sort of talks about others surrounding Donald Trump, people that did not come in when they were subpoenaed. Do you think there's any teeth, that this will provide teeth to another agency, obviously the DOJ, going forward to go after anyone else?
Look, we know the DOJ wanted these transcripts, and they didn't have them for a long time. Right. They're going to have them all now. I think they've looked at a bunch of them already, because I know some folks have been going over to DOJ to review, or at least been going over to the House to review, excuse me. So I think that it does give them more evidence, especially for people who then wouldn't cooperate with other aspects of the investigation. But how far along this is going to go, I don't think we know. I do want to just make one point that I think gets overlooked, and this is not related to the report other than that it's adjacent to it. There's a lot of focus on will Donald Trump get indicted. Right. Even if Donald Trump doesn't get indicted, he is facing this huge flurry of litigation this year. He is facing trials in a number of cases. So this is going to be something, he is facing a tough legal year no matter what happens here.
Georgia, New York, the states and the federal.
A fraud lawsuit related to ACN, 2 suits related to E. Jean Carroll. The list goes on. Sorry.
What about Pasatino, just quickly, because if what's alleged in this report, in Cassidy Hutchinson, he could be disbarred for that.
Oh, at least. He is facing severe legal jeopardy, and I don't know what ends up happening with this. We'll see what the DOJ does. It is on the DOJ's radar. I think they are taking it seriously. I don't know how aggressively they're taking it, but these are serious allegations, and he has a real problem.
It takes a lot to be disbarred. It'll be really interesting to see that.
And we've seen that with Giuliani too, right? Except this is a different type of allegation.
All right.
Thank you, Maggie. Merry Christmas.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.